Are you tired of walking a tightrope between being the boss everyone fears and the pushover everyone loves and steps on? What if I told you there was a secret sauce to becoming a project manager that people actually want to follow? In my decade as being a project manager, I've cracked the code, I truly believe, on leading without intimidation or sacrificing what Aretha Franklin called that RESPECT, respect, family. Stick around and I'll show you how to transform your leadership style and skyrocket your project success rate. But first, you have to ask yourself, if your project suddenly hit a major roadblock today, would your team rally behind you? Or would they start going on Indeed, Monster, and LinkedIn so they can and polishing up their resumes? In today's episode, we're diving in deep into that old age debate. Should you wield authority to get results, or should you build a team that's motivated by respect and appreciation? Listen, I'm just gonna cut it straight to the chase. Basically, should you be loved or should you be feared? Let's jump into today's content, family. I hope you like this one. All right. Is it better to be feared when it comes to being a PM, or is it better to be loved when it comes to being a PM? All right, let's get into it. All right. Point number one. You mind if I share a story with you, family, real quick? Because I want to make sure we're aligned here. Balancing authority and empathy. I started studying, I play basketball in college and in high school. And one of the things that I started doing is started watching coaches. And the reason why I started watching basketball coaches a lot more is because there was something that they did from time to time that would fire up their team. And I know you're thinking, "Hey, what does this have to do with project management?" I started taking a Kobe Bryant approach to this thing that I love, that I hope you fall in love with, called project management, and seeing certain things that I could pull from that I could experiment and test out back to the coaching story. So I started watching coaches, and coaches would do certain things to fire up their team. They would accidentally get a technical and a technical meaning that, hey, if you get two of these technicals, then basically you are removed from the game. And a technical is more or less where a referee blows a whistle and just says, hey, you're out of line. We didn't like what you did there. The biggest thing is when I seen a coach actually throw a chair onto the basketball court. He didn't make it to the second check. They just got him up out of there. But the whole premise of it was when one day they were asking this coach, and I apologize who it was. He said, "Why did you do that?" And he said, "I needed the team to know that the calls that the ref were making were unfair, and because I am not playing the game, I had to show them that I was there to support them, to let them know this is not right." Okay, family, maybe you don't like that story. How about this? The point I'm trying to make, family, is a lot of time in this thing that I love, that I hope you fall in love with in project management, you have to have a balance of authority and empathy. You have to be able to be someone that can be stern enough to get your point across, but also have empathy enough to know when enough is enough, not crossing that line. Because I don't know about you, but anytime I've worked with somebody that was all they could think about was authority. This is my title. This is what I'm doing. You need to put some respect on my title. I've watched how more and more people just do not want to work with them, and they really don't respect them. They tolerate them, and you never want to be tolerated, but they tolerate them, but they don't respect them. And as a project manager, you need to have a balance of both, of authority and empathy. So striking a balance between authority and empathy is crucial. Being overly authoritative may create a hostile environment, while excessive leniency might lead to a lack of respect. Listen, my mom would always say, son, you are not a doormat. Son, do not allow someone to walk over you. You do need to stand up for yourself. Okay, you don't like that one? How about what Martin Luther King said? He said that if your back is not bent over, then they can't ride your back. I love that, family. And I know I'm spending a lot of time here on balance, authority, and empathy, but a lot of times project managers, when they get into this thing called project management, they think they have to be so authoritative that they can't show a sign of empathy. But that's dead wrong. That's not going to help your team respect you. Here's my actionable advices, and we can move on to point number two. Here's actionable advice. Set clear expectations and boundaries while also showing genuine care for team members while well-being. Actionable advice number two, regular check-in with your team to ensure they feel value. All right, let's move on to point number two. Be decisive and accountable. Decisiveness and accountability are essential for effective leadership. Being clear for your decision builds trust and respect. Here's my actionable advice. Make decisions based on thorough analysis. Next, take responsibility for outcomes, whether positive or negative. Let me park here parenthetically, family, because this is one of these points or these actionable advices that I want to make sure is crystal clear. Fortunately and unfortunately, as you are the project manager, you are, when the team is winning, you have to ensure that you are taking responsibility for making sure they look good as someone that is winning. When they are losing or it is not going as well, you have to take accountability and responsibility for that. And I've mentored so many people, project managers, where they would get frustrated. It was like, why when the project is not going well, that they want to throw me under the bus. But when the project is going well, they want to take all the credit. Like I wasn't the one that's communicating. And I said, listen, this is just part of the game. If this is something you don't want to do, I understand. I get it because it's not a walk in the park. However, the rewards, if you can stick with it long enough, if you can trust the process long enough, if you can be willing to do what others are unwilling to do so you can be exceptional, I promise you, and this is something I don't normally do. I promise you that it's going to work in your favor because now people are going to want to work with you. And when people want to work with you, if there's a new project that comes up, who you think they're going to be asking to be the project manager? What do you think happens when you get these projects? Now we're having a different conversation about compensation. Now we're having a different conversation about the respect level and everything. All right, let's move on to this next item. Communicate decisions clearly along with a reasoning behind them. A lot of project managers, what we do wrong is when a decision is implemented, we have to explain the why. I always talk about the why. If you can get that piece, family, about understanding the why behind something, and communicate it clearly, you will be ahead of so many project managers because it's one of those cliches is do as I say, not as I do type thing. And that doesn't work that way. Let's move on to point number three, show vulnerability. I love this shot that I have here. If you're looking at it, if you're listening, I apologize. But if you're watching, check this out. It said, don't mistake someone's willingness to show vulnerability as a weakness. It takes a great deal of courage to show vulnerability, and that takes strength. And so by Zero Dean, listen, family, when you can admit that you don't have all the answers and when you've made a mistake, humanizes you and builds trust with your team. It also encourages a culture of openness and continuous learning. Special note here, special message. I do want to be crystal clear. Be careful, as there are some environments that don't support this type of vulnerability. What do you mean by that, ED? Is that you have to learn your environment. Some people will take advantage of the vulnerability aspect of when you say you don't know something, and then they're going to be like, oh, see, we need to get another project manager, or we have to. So you have to gauge that environment extremely well. How do I go about engagement? You experiment, you test little things that maybe you already know just to see the response that you're going to get. I had someone say something that was very powerful for me. I think it was in Tim Grover's book, and he was talking about he'll ask questions that he already knows the answer to just to test. And sometimes you need to take that same approach, even if you need to take that same approach by testing it out just to see how they will respond when you say, hey, you know what? Not sure if I know this. How about we work together on this? Let's get into our actionable step. Openly discuss a mistake you made and what you learned from it. When faced with challenges you are unsure, say, I don't know, but let's figure it out together. That is key, family. And engage the team. in problem solving. I always say when you engage your team in problem solving and you guys come to a solution together, this is an easier buy-in with the team because what are they going to say? We all came up together, which now you're against it. Okay, if you're against it, let's have a conversation, the reason why. But the majority of the time, because they had an opportunity to put their consultation in of what their solution is to the problem, you get an easy buy-in from the team and they sell it for you. All right, let's move on to point number four. Handle conflict frequently and fairly. One of the things, family, is that uh, fair conflict, excuse me, resolution maintains harmony and respect. Avoiding favoritism or biased judgment ensures that all team members feel valued. Listen, one of the things I watched that there's, if you, again, I always tell you guys my framework about communication, persuasiveness, conflict, and also being a magnetic project manager. This is why I wrote the book on the magnetic project managers, because all of those things are encompassed of being a exceptional project manager. But a lot of times you have project managers that don't want to deal with conflict because of the fact of they don't they're nervous of how this person is going to feel about them. Are they going to respect them if they have to confront them? Hey, listen, if you don't, like they said, if you don't get to the root of the weed now, meaning pull that weed out now, it's going to continue to grow and then it's going to get worse. And you don't need that to happen. Here's my actionable advice: establish an open door policy or regular check ins where team members can voice their concerns. You need to be able to offer that platform to allow them to voice their concerns. Next, address conflict promptly, listen to all sides of the issue, and then make a decision based on a objective criteria. That is huge. Objective criteria, family. Always remember that. Don't take favoritism. Be fair. At the end of the day, I don't care who it is. I don't care if I truly respect you to the highest degree, but I'm always objective to a point of I want to be on the side of right and fair. I don't want to be on the side of favoritism and biased judgment, because then that means I haven't grown as a person. That means I will continually put someone that I respect or and show favoritism and always have a you don't want that, family. Anyway, and the last, which we talk about here a lot, is always focus on the solution rather than blaming uh than the blame. When you focus on the solution and you spend time mastering the solution, you don't have time to focus on the problem. Think about it. If we're spending all of our time focusing on the solution, how much time do we have focusing on the problem? None. And I don't know why we don't always reverse that by always focus on the solution more than we focus on the problem. But what happens is you get a lot of people in the room, they want to spend, if we got an hour meeting, they want to spend 55 minutes talking about the problem and talking how it's unfair and talking about what didn't go right. And then you're like, okay, I guess we got 5 minutes to talk about the solution, ladies and gentlemen. And it's just not, it just doesn't work that way. At that point, you have to be willing to always focus on the solution. All right. Point number five, establish clear communication and channels. This is key. Like I said, in my framework, communication, which is part of persuasion, but it will say communication, having the ability to manage and lead conflict. And then, of course, dealing with stakeholders and project team, which all encompasses, again, to the magnetic project manager, or MPM, as we're calling it. Clear communication prevents misunderstanding that can lead to fear or resentment. It ensures everyone is on the same page regarding project goals, tasks, and expectation. A PM who communicates effectively likely to be both respected. And here's my three actionable advice. I always recommend, family, just don't use one form of communication. Look for emails, face to face, Slack, what else? Teams, all these different channels that we have to communicate, to disseminate the information effectively. Always confirm understanding after conveying important information. And the last and final, you always want to have regular status updates and feedback sessions. All right, let's get to point number six. Provide constructive feedback. Feedback really does help the team grow and improve. You have to be willing to step out and have that faith and that courage There's one thing about constructive feedback is funny is because the root of constructive feedback is construct. So when you are constructing, when you're going to give a team member feedback, be sincere. Don't try and attack someone. Don't try to, but really show that you're really there to help them. And the only way you can do that, family, is when they've earned when they really trust you and respect you. So offering constructively ensure that it received positively and can assure your reputation. Here's my actionable advice. Focus on specific behaviors and outcomes. Provide actionable suggestions for improvement. Deliver feedback in a supportive manner. Point number 7, set high standards. Now, here's my special note, family. Even though you're going to set high standards, it's crucial. It is so crucial to provide support to help team members meet these standards rather than using them as a tool for criticism. I always say, if you can't meet these high standards, how are you going to expect your team to meet these high standards? If you can't deliver these high standards, then how can you get your team to deliver that? If you can't show up to the meeting on time, why are you getting frustrated that they're not showing up time? Okay, I'm sorry, I went on a rant. Point of being, family, high standards really do drive team performances and project quality. Here's my actionable advice. Clearly define, document project quality standards at the outset. Provide resources, training, or mentoring to help the team members meet project standards, to meet these standards. So raise your standards. Point number 8, practice active listening. Showing genuine interest in your team's ideals and concerns fosters one of my favorite words in project management is collaborative environment. Listen, family, when you have a collaborative environment, I truly believe you can do a lot more than you can in a silo environment. When you have a collaborative environment, I believe that you can do more than when you have someone that is working by themselves or made a decision that they don't want to be supportive of the direction of the project. When you have a collaborative environment, family, this environment will go to war for you. I meaning that they will go back to back and we will figure out a solution. We no longer focus on the problem, we focus on the solution to the problem. This is what a collaborative environment. If you never worked in one, I apologize, but I'm telling you, it will change the way that you look at this thing that I love, that I hope you fall in love with, called project management. Here's my actionable advice. Encourage team members to speak up. Use techniques like paraphrasing to ensure you understood their points correctly. That's one of the things I love to do is when I'm speaking with someone, I'll paraphrase what I believe I heard them say just to make sure we're on the same page and there's no disconnect in the conversation. Here's my top 3 transformational recommendation. Point number 1, balance authority and empathy. You want to set clear expectations and boundaries. I do not want you to be a doormat. I would rather you be an opportunity to help guide that team to establish your authority built on respect, not fear, because once the fear goes away, then what happens? As I told you earlier, I've worked with someone that tried to create that fear environment, and all it did is, yeah, it worked for a while. It did work for a while, but after time, people started getting their resumes together. After time, people started finding other job opportunities. And then eventually executives woke up to it, was like, wait a minute, something is off here. And they let this person go. So leading with fear is not going to be the approach. You need to have a balance of authority as well as empathy. Point number 2, show vulnerability. I'm not telling you again to be a doormat. And again, understand the environment that you in. Because when you are faced with challenges, you're unsure, taking more of a collaborative approach of let's figure this out together is going to be huge. But this is for something where you're in a environment, as I'll say, a more safe environment. I've worked in environments where this is not respected because of the fact they have a certain expectation. As they say, we want you to hit the ground running. They may not respect you showing vulnerability in that case, but I've been in way more environments that don't want you to know all the answers, but to figure out a way to pull the answers out the team. And so you can present them. And the last and final point, family, is establish a clear communication channel. Like I said, communication is king. Everything rises and falls on effective communication. So next time you think about it, family, just don't use emails, use other forms of ways to communicate with your team. Family, I go by the name of ED. For all you smart and intelligent folks out there, that just simply means Ed. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I enjoyed delivering it today, and I truly appreciate because you could have listened to anybody, you could have watched anybody, but today you made a decision to watch me. And I hope that you'll take time up to pick up this book, The Magnetic Project Manager, at Amazon as well as Barnes and Nobles. I'll leave a link somewhere so you guys can check that out. And again, I hope you enjoy your weekend. And I go by the name of ED. I'm out.